Most people avoid making curry from scratch because it feels complicated. Too many spices, too many steps, too many things that can go wrong. The curry comes out too thin or too bitter, or the spices taste raw, or the whole thing just does not smell the way it should. Here's what nobody tells you. Indian home cooks do not follow recipes, and they never have. They follow techniques. Today we are counting down 31 of those techniques, and once you know them, curry stops being complicated and starts being the easiest, most satisfying thing you make all week. Number 31. Let your whole spices tell you when the oil is ready. Drop your whole spices, mustard seeds, cumin seeds, a cardamom pod, into cold or barely warm oil before turning on the heat. As the oil temperature rises, you will hear the exact moment it is ready. The mustard seeds sputter and crack, the cumin darkens, the cardamom blooms. Indian home cooks have used whole spices as a built-in thermometer for thousands of years. That popping tells you the oil is between 375 and 400 degrees Fahrenheit, the precise temperature where fat-soluble flavor compounds are extracted without burning. Add your onions the moment you hear it. Number 30. Cook your onions in 2 stages, not 1. Indian home cooks cook onions in 2 distinct stages. First, medium-high heat for 5 minutes to drive off moisture and start browning. Then medium-low for 15 to 20 more minutes, stirring occasionally. The high heat collapses the cellular structure. The low heat caramelizes the natural sugars slowly without burning. The difference between onions cooked this way and shortcut golden onions is not subtle. It is the entire flavor base of the dish. Number 29. Add a pinch of sugar when your tomatoes fight back. When your tomato-onion base tastes sharp and acidic, Indian home cooks reach for a pinch of white sugar before adding more spice. A quarter teaspoon does not make your curry sweet. It rounds off tomato acidity through a chemical interaction where sugar molecules bind with acid compounds, reducing their perceived intensity without changing the underlying flavor. The same technique is used in Italian tomato sauce and French vinaigrette. If your base tastes tart or sharp, sugar is the fix. Number 28. Fry your ground spices for 60 seconds before adding any liquid. The moment you add ground spices to your cooked onion, tomato base is the most important 60 seconds in the recipe. Fry them, stirring constantly, for exactly 60 seconds before adding any liquid. The fat in the masala extracts fat-soluble flavor compounds from the spice powders in a way water simply cannot. Add liquid immediately and you boil your spices rather than fry them. The flavor difference is enormous. After 60 seconds, the spices smell toasted and aromatic, the color deepens, and the raw, powdery taste has gone. Number 27. When the masala sticks to the pan, deglaze with a splash of water. When the masala sticks to the bottom of the pan, do not panic and add too much liquid. That sticking is where the deepest flavor is developing. Caramelized sugars and proteins bonding to the pan surface. Add 2 to 3 tablespoons of water and scrape everything off the bottom. That dark layer dissolves back into the curry and adds an enormous amount of concentrated flavor. Indian home cooks have been doing this instinctively for generations. Just enough water to lift what's stuck. Nothing more. Number 26. Use the whole and ground version of the same spice together. Indian home cooks use cumin seeds and cumin powder in the same dish. This is not redundancy. Whole seeds release their flavor slowly over the entire cooking time. Ground powder releases immediately and intensely. Together, they create a 3-dimensional spice presence neither form achieves alone. Add whole spices in the oil at the very beginning. Add ground spices after the onion-tomato base is cooked. This combination is the reason restaurant curry tastes layered, while home curry made with only ground spices tastes flat. Number 25. Add yogurt 1 tablespoon at a time and never over-direct high heat. Most people dump yogurt into a hot curry and get a broken, curdled mess. Indian home cooks prevent this with 2 rules. First, whisk the yogurt smooth before it goes near the pan. Second, take the pan completely off the heat before adding yogurt 1 tablespoon at a time, stirring between each addition. Yogurt curdles because its proteins coagulate rapidly under high heat. Adding gradually gives each spoonful time to incorporate before the next hits. Once fully incorporated, slowly bring the heat back up. Number 24. The oil rising to the surface is not a mistake. It is the signal you are done. When oil separates and rises to the surface of your masala base, most home cooks assume something went wrong. Indian home cooks know it is the clearest signal the masala is fully cooked. The water from onions and tomatoes has fully evaporated, and the oil has separated out of the emulsion. The masala is now caramelized, concentrated, and ready for protein. If you add chicken before this stage, the masala is still watery and will steam the meat rather than coat it. Wait for the oil to rise. That is your green light. Number 23. Salt your curry in 3 separate stages, not once at the end. Indian home cooks add salt at 3 points, not 1. First pinch with the onions, draws out moisture and speeds softening. Second pinch with the tomatoes, helps them break down and seasons the base. Final adjustment after the protein is cooked. Salting only at the end means your curry tastes seasoned on the surface but flat underneath. The total salt is not more. It is distributed so every layer has been seasoned during cooking rather than after. Number 22. Coat the back of your spoon to test if the curry has the right consistency. Dip the back of a metal spoon into your curry and hold it horizontally. The curry should coat the spoon in a thin, even layer without immediately running off. If it slides off in a watery sheet, reduce it longer. If it clings so thickly you have to scrape it, add a small amount of liquid. This coating consistency means the sauce will cling to every piece of chicken and every cube of paneer rather than pooling at the bottom of the bowl. Number 21. Marinate your protein for a minimum of 2 hours before it touches the pan. Yogurt contains lactic acid, which denatures surface proteins gently and progressively, tenderizing without the aggressive breakdown caused by citrus or vinegar. Spices in the marinade penetrate the outer layers during the marinating time, so seasoning is not just on the surface when meat hits the heat. 2 hours is the minimum. Overnight is better. A chicken marinated for 30 minutes and one marinated for 8 hours cook in the same amount of time but taste like 2 completely different dishes. Number 20. Use Kashmiri chili powder for color and cayenne for heat. Never confuse the 2 jobs. Restaurant curry has that vivid, deep red color that home curry almost never achieves, and the reason is not that restaurants add food coloring. It is that they use Kashmiri chili powder, which has an intensely pigmented red color and a very mild heat level, separately from whatever chili powder they use for actual heat. Using only regular chili powder or cayenne for both color and heat means you have to add so much to get visual impact that the curry becomes unbearably spicy. Kashmiri chili powder gives you the color with almost no heat contribution. Add it generously, 2 teaspoons per pound of protein, and then add a much smaller amount of cayenne separately to dial in the heat level you actually want. Find Kashmiri chili powder at any Indian grocery store or online. Number 19. Add coconut milk only in the last 5 minutes of cooking. Coconut milk is one of the most common ingredients in South Indian, Thai, and Caribbean curry traditions, and one of the most commonly mistreated. Most recipes instruct you to add coconut milk early and let it simmer with the curry for 20 to 30 minutes. Do not do this. The volatile aromatic compounds that give coconut milk its fresh, creamy sweetness evaporate under sustained heat. A curry that is simmered with coconut milk for 30 minutes tastes heavy and slightly flat. A curry that has the coconut milk added in the final 5 minutes and barely simmered tastes bright, fragrant, and fresh. If you want a thicker curry, reduce the curry base before adding the coconut milk rather than cooking it all together for longer. Number 18. Let your finished curry rest for 10 minutes off the heat before serving. Indian home cooks do not serve curry straight from the stove. After a curry is fully cooked, they take it off the heat, put a lid on it, and let it rest for a minimum of 10 minutes before serving. During this resting period, the residual heat continues to cook the curry very gently without any risk of burning or over-reducing. More importantly, the flavors that were separated by the vigorous activity of simmering redistribute and integrate. The spices mellow slightly. The fat redistributes back into the sauce. The salt perception changes as the dish cools from boiling to serving temperature. A curry tasted straight from the stove and the same curry tasted 10 minutes later are noticeably different. The rested version is deeper, more cohesive, and more balanced every time. That kind of detail is exactly what's in the Complete Indian Kitchen Bible. 900+ techniques like it. Links in the description. Now those first 15 tricks were all about building the base and getting the fundamentals right. Stay with me because what comes next is where most home cooks in every country are unknowingly making their biggest mistakes. And the final 5 are the kind of tricks that will immediately change the way you cook everything. Number 17. Add a whole cinnamon stick, never ground cinnamon. Ground cinnamon in curry is one of the most common mistakes made by Western home cooks following Indian recipes. Ground cinnamon releases its flavor immediately and overwhelmingly, turning a savory curry into something that tastes like a spiced dessert. Indian home cooks use a whole cinnamon stick, added at the very beginning in the oil alongside other whole spices. A whole cinnamon stick releases its flavor compounds slowly and subtly over the entire cooking time, contributing warmth and complexity that you sense in the background rather than identify as cinnamon in the foreground. The difference between ground and whole cinnamon in a curry is dramatic. Leave the whole stick in through serving and just push it aside in the bowl. Never substitute ground. Number 16. Toast your pre-ground spice blends for 30 seconds before every use. Every time you open a jar of garam masala, curry powder, or any pre-mixed spice blend, the volatile aromatics released in that moment are the freshest and most potent they will ever be. Every subsequent opening, every week sitting on the shelf, every exposure to heat from a nearby stove slowly depletes those compounds. Indian home cooks who are serious about flavor take a small portion of any pre-ground blend and toast it briefly in a dry pan for 30 seconds before adding it to their cooking. This reactivates the remaining aromatic compounds through heat, drives off any staleness, and intensifies the perceived flavor by a significant margin. Your garam masala from 6 months ago, properly toasted before use, will outperform a fresh jar that was simply shaken directly into a pot. Number 15. Fry your tomato paste before adding fresh tomatoes. This is a trick borrowed from both Indian home kitchens and Italian restaurant kitchens, and it works for the same chemical reason in both. Add 1 teaspoon of tomato paste to your hot oil or fat before adding any fresh tomatoes and fry it for 60 to 90 seconds, stirring constantly until it darkens slightly and smells caramelized. Tomato paste that has been fried in fat undergoes the Maillard reaction, creating glutamates and new flavor compounds that give your curry base a deep, rich, savory undertone that fresh tomatoes alone cannot provide. The paste essentially gives you the concentrated flavor equivalent of tomatoes that have been roasting in an oven for an hour. When you add your fresh tomatoes on top of that fried paste, the combined base has a complexity and depth that shortcuts produce in minutes. Number 14. Brown your protein in a separate pan before it goes into the curry. The most common instruction in curry recipes is to add raw chicken, lamb, or beef directly into the curry base and cook it through in the sauce. Indian restaurant kitchens almost never do this. They brown the protein separately in a very hot pan with minimal fat until every surface has a deep golden brown crust, then add it to the curry. Browning creates the Maillard reaction on the surface of the meat, producing hundreds of flavor compounds that boiling or simmering in liquid cannot create. If you cook raw chicken directly in a curry sauce, the sauce surrounding the meat drops in temperature. The meat steams in the liquid and no browning occurs at all. Brown your protein first, set it aside, build your curry base, then add the browned protein to finish cooking in the sauce. The flavor difference is substantial. Number 13. Use ghee for the final pour-over, not the initial cooking fat. Ghee has a distinctly rich, nutty, caramelized flavor that comes from the milk solids being cooked out of butter during its production. That flavor is most powerful and most aromatic when the ghee is heated briefly just before serving. Indian home cooks often cook the entire curry in a neutral oil to keep costs manageable, but at the very end, they heat a small amount of ghee separately until it shimmers, add a few whole spices, and pour the entire sizzling mixture directly over the finished curry. This tadka made with ghee creates an aromatic, rich, intensely flavored finish that a curry cooked in ghee from the beginning does not always achieve because the ghee flavor added early gets absorbed and partially lost during the long cooking process. A tablespoon of ghee at the end outperforms 3 tablespoons of ghee at the beginning in terms of perceived flavor impact. Number 12. Crush dried fenugreek leaves between your palms before adding them. Dried fenugreek leaves, called kasuri methi, are one of the most important finishing ingredients in North Indian curry cooking and one of the least known outside of India. They have a slightly bitter, deeply savory, almost maple-like aroma that adds a layer of complexity to curry that is immediately recognizable as the restaurant quality you cannot replicate at home. The critical technique is to crush the dried leaves between your palms before adding them to a finished curry, releasing the essential oils locked inside the dried leaf structure. Add them in the last 2 minutes of cooking or immediately after removing from heat. Half a teaspoon per 4 servings is the right amount. Find them at any Indian grocery store. Once you start using kasuri methi, you will understand immediately what was missing from every curry you made before it. Number 11. The correct ratio for 1 pound of protein. Indian home cooks do not measure, they know by eye. But for anyone learning curry from scratch, having the correct ratio of aromatics to protein is the fastest way to stop guessing. For every pound of chicken, lamb, or vegetables, you need 2 medium onions, 3 medium tomatoes, 1 full inch of fresh ginger, and 6 cloves of garlic as your base. This ratio produces a curry that coats the protein thoroughly without being soupy and has enough aromatic foundation to carry the spices without tasting thin. Use less onion and your curry lacks body. Use fewer tomatoes and it lacks brightness and acidity. This ratio has been refined across generations of Indian home cooking and applies equally well to any protein you use. Number 10. Add a raw potato to thicken curry without changing the flavor. When your curry is too thin and you do not want to add cream, coconut milk, or cornstarch, Indian home cooks reach for a raw potato. Peel 1 medium potato, cut it into small cubes roughly the size of a sugar cube, and add it directly to the simmering curry. Cook for 15 to 20 minutes until the potato is fully soft. As the potato cooks, it releases starch directly into the curry liquid, thickening it naturally. Mash a few of the potato pieces against the side of the pan if you want a thicker result faster. The potato absorbs the curry flavor as it cooks, so rather than thickening being a neutral addition, the potato actually becomes one of the best seasoned, most flavorful components in the entire dish. This works on any curry that is not already at the right consistency. Number 9. Add lemon juice only after the pan comes off the heat. Lemon juice is one of the most important finishing elements in Indian curry cooking. It brightens the dish, balances fat and richness, and sharpens all the other flavors. The mistake most people make is adding it to the simmering curry and then continuing to cook. Lemon juice contains volatile citric acid compounds that evaporate rapidly under heat. Cooked lemon juice tastes flat, slightly bitter, and contributes almost none of the brightness you added it for. Indian home cooks squeeze fresh lemon directly into the curry after the pan has been taken off the heat completely. The residual heat of the dish is enough to distribute the lemon throughout the curry without cooking off the volatile compounds. Add it, stir once, taste, and serve. The same rule applies to any dish where fresh citrus is used as a finishing element. Number 8. Use bone broth instead of water to thin your curry at any stage. Every curry recipe instructs you to add water to control consistency. Indian home cooks who want restaurant-quality results add bone broth instead. Bone broth has gelatin, collagen, dissolved minerals, and a deep, savory flavor that plain water completely lacks. When you thin a curry with water, you dilute the flavor of everything in the pot proportionally. When you thin a curry with a small amount of warm bone broth, you maintain the flavor concentration while giving the sauce additional body, depth, and richness. Chicken bone broth works with chicken curry, lamb or beef broth works with red meat curries, vegetable broth works for vegetarian preparations. Keep a cup of warm broth beside the stove whenever you cook curry. Use it instead of water for every consistency adjustment. Number 7. The restaurant color secret is how long you cook the onions. The vivid, deep red-brown color of restaurant curry that home curry never achieves is not about food coloring, Kashmiri chili, or any special ingredient. It is entirely about how long the onions are cooked. Restaurant kitchens cook their onion base until it reaches a deep brick red color, almost the color of dark mahogany, before adding a single tomato or spice. This takes a minimum of 30 minutes on medium-low heat and sometimes longer. Most home curry recipes instruct you to cook onions until golden, which is roughly 15 minutes and produces a pale amber curry base. Every minute of additional cooking past golden creates new caramelization compounds that contribute color, sweetness, and complexity. A pale golden onion base produces a pale orange curry. A brick red onion base produces a deep restaurant-quality color without any other change to the recipe. Number 6. Finish with a 2-ingredient balance check every single time. Before your curry leaves the stove, Indian home cooks make one final adjustment that most people never know about. Taste the curry. If it tastes flat or one-dimensional, add a pinch of sugar and a small squeeze of lemon juice at the same time. Off the heat and taste again. These 2 ingredients work together to resolve the most common curry problems simultaneously. The sugar rounds off any remaining sharpness from tomatoes or spices. The lemon brightens everything and brings the individual flavors into focus. Together, they create what chefs call balance, the point where no single flavor is dominant and the whole dish tastes cohesive rather than like a collection of separate components. This 2-ingredient check is not about sweetness or sourness, it is about harmony. Learn to do this, and you will never serve a flat or one-note curry again. Number 5. Brown the spices into the onion, not into the tomato. There is a specific moment in curry cooking where most home cooks unknowingly make a mistake that costs them enormous flavor. They cook their onions, add their tomatoes, cook them together, and then add their ground spices to the combined onion-tomato mixture. Indian home cooks add ground spices to the onion base before the tomatoes go in. Onion-only base at high heat is dry enough and hot enough for ground spices to fry properly in the fat. Adding spices to an onion-tomato mixture means the water released by the tomatoes immediately prevents the spices from frying. They boil instead. Add your coriander, cumin, and turmeric to the cooked onion base alone. Fry for 60 seconds until fragrant and toasted, then add the tomatoes. The toasted spice flavor that results is incomparably better than boiled spice flavor. Number 4. The simmer rule. Every 15 minutes adds 1 layer of depth up to 45. Indian home cooks understand intuitively what food scientists have confirmed. Flavor in a braised or simmered dish develops in distinct stages over time. A curry simmered for 15 minutes has bright, distinct, slightly raw-tasting individual spice notes. At 30 minutes, those notes begin to merge and round. At 45 minutes, the flavors have fully integrated and the curry tastes like a single cohesive dish rather than a collection of separate ingredients. Beyond 45 minutes, most curries do not improve significantly and some proteins begin to overcook. This means the minimum effective simmer for any curry is 30 minutes after all components are in the pot. Budget for 45. The protein does not take this long to cook. The simmer time is for the sauce to develop. If your chicken is done in 20 minutes, keep it at a gentle simmer for another 25 minutes anyway. Number 3. A great curry base takes 40 minutes. The protein takes 15. Spend your time correctly. The most important thing any home cook can understand about making curry is where the time goes. The protein, chicken thighs, lamb shoulder, paneer, vegetables, cooks in 15 to 20 minutes once it is in the sauce. The curry base that makes the dish great, the onions, the tomatoes, the spices, the aromatics, requires a minimum of 40 minutes to develop properly. Most failed home curries are the result of rushing the base. 10 minutes on the onions, 5 minutes on the tomatoes, 2 minutes on the spices, and then the protein is added to something that is essentially an undercooked onion soup with spices stirred into it. Spend 40 minutes on your base before you add anything else. The protein will cook faster than you expect once it goes in. The base cannot be hurried. Number 2. Never add garam masala before the protein. Always after. Garam masala is a finishing spice blend, not a cooking spice blend, and treating it as one is one of the single most common mistakes in home curry cooking outside of India. Indian home cooks add garam masala in the last 5 minutes of cooking or after the protein is fully cooked through, never at the beginning with the other spices. The complex, delicate aromatic compounds in garam masala, the cardamom, the cloves, the nutmeg, are volatile and evaporate quickly under prolonged heat. Garam masala added at the start of cooking contributes almost nothing to the finished dish because everything interesting about it has evaporated during the long simmer. Added at the end, those same compounds stay intact and hit your nose and palate with their full intensity. Half a teaspoon at the end of cooking is worth 2 teaspoons added at the beginning. Number 1. The most important curry trick is also the most overlooked. Make it the day before. Indian home cooks have always known what food scientists confirmed only recently. Curry tastes significantly better the next day, not slightly better, significantly better. Overnight refrigeration allows three things to happen that real-time cooking cannot replicate. The fat in the curry solidifies and then re-emulsifies when reheated, creating a sauce with better body and texture. The spice molecules continue to interact with the proteins, starches, and acids in the curry throughout the night, creating new flavor compounds that only form through slow, cold, sustained contact. And the individual flavors that tasted distinct and separate on day one integrate into a single, cohesive, deeply satisfying dish by day two. Indian families routinely cook curry a day ahead for guests precisely because of this. If you want restaurant-quality curry, cook it tonight and serve it tomorrow. That single change will produce better results than any other technique on this list. And if you want every trick like these 31, all 900 plus of them, they're all in the Complete Indian Kitchen Bible. Links in the description. Which of these tricks are you trying first? Let me know in the comment section below.